Hey guys, today we're going to look at my Mego collection. Hey everybody, welcome to my Mego collection. Now we're going to be looking at a lot of action figures coming through this video. Stick around because I'm going to be showing you close-ups later on, and we're going to be looking at different categories of my collection. And we're going to start with what I've had since childhood. That's right, I got these guys back in the 70s when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. The reason why myself and a lot of other toy collectors collect these things is because, you know, they're such a part of our growing up and our story, and it's something that we had since we were kids and we just treasure it. Especially in my situation, because where I grew up, there was only like 1 or 2 kids my age in the neighborhood, so I didn't have that many friends, and everybody I went to school with was out of bicycle range. So if one of your friends is gone for, you know, like a family trip or something, you're pretty much on your own. And so the Mego action figures and all my other toys were kind of like my playmates and my best friends. And the Hulk was my favorite comic books, so this was the first one I ever got. I used to play with this guy in the dirt pile out back and all throughout the neighborhood. You could see his pants have seen better days. He's original. What can I say? This guy's been through it all. We've been through everything together. The fists are neat. I just wish that one hand was open so he could do stuff, so he could grasp things. Not long after that, I got my first Spider-Man. This was, I mean, it's amazing that his outfit has survived, because this guy was all over. I mean, he went on family trips and everything. You know, I used to have this guy perched up on top of bookshelves and things like that, along with the 12-inch Spider-Man. Now, I did have a 12-inch Hulk when I was a kid. I can't find him. I don't know, in one of the millions of moves I've done, he might have vanished over the years. It's amazing that I still have these guys, you know? And these are the ones, like I said, I used to play with as a kid. Now, Spider-Man needs an enemy, and I always loved the Lizard. You Mego guys will know this is the Gorn head. See what I mean about the fist? One fist, and the other hand is sort of, you know, like the Spider-Man way. The Lizard is cool because he has a soft, spongy tail right there. Pants are good, and I had to repair his one leg, so I'm going to be gentle with him. One of the reasons that I loved the Lizard was from the old Spider-Man TV show. And we're talking about the one that came out in the 60s. So by the time I was like in 9 or 10, they were rerunning this thing on Channel 17 in Philadelphia. So I would reenact all the fight scenes with these guys. Then later on I got Iron Man. Now notice his gloves. Underneath his gloves, which I'm not going to take off, but underneath here are hands similar to Spider-Man's. And it's amazing that the chest piece survived. I still have the original belt. I played with this guy all the time. He would go flying like crazy. Problem was, with the Megos, 8-inch anyway, and sort of 8-inch, is with Hulk, he's supposed to be taller than everybody else. You know, the Hulk is like 7 foot tall, so at least they didn't do it to scale, and I understand why, but still it would be cool. And after Iron Man, I got the Falcon with his cloth wings that spread out. And you can see, if you hold it against his back here like that, you can spread out the wings so he'll fly. And I love this because this is the outfit from the comics at the time. Eventually I'll go on, and later on I did get Captain America to team them up. But there's a neat story with this. This guy somehow survived, like I said, all these years. And a long time ago, my daughter had her friend over and they were playing with these guys. Somehow they got into my box of vintage toys, and the one of her friends lost his boot. And later on I found that it had fallen down and just rolled somewhere, but thank goodness, because the boots are the hardest to find, I think, for the Falcon. And I'm sure that a lot of times the cloth wings would rip. but not on mine, because, you know, even though I played with these guys like crazy, I knew that I had to take care of them because it was a rare treat to get a Mego action figure back in the 70s and 80s, let me tell you. Okay, for the rest of the video, I'm going to take you through the different categories of the collection. Okay, these are the ones that I had when I was a kid. I also have ones that, you know, I bought because mom and dad said no when I was little, and when I got older and had a job, you know, I was able to get them myself, you know, the vintage ones. I don't have any of the custom-made Megos, and it's important to know that all the uniforms and bits and bobs for these guys are all original. Some of my other replacement Mego action figures, I do get replacement parts. For example, like, you know, the Captain America, obviously the star, I needed to get a new star for him, which you'll see coming up in the rest of the video. But I like to have as much original stuff with my original stuff, you know what I mean? Repro parts are great if you want to complete the figure, as long as you know that some of these parts weren't original. You know what I'm trying to say? So anyway, stick around for the rest of the video. We're going to look at the rest of the Mego collection. And don't forget, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you the close-ups because, you know, I try not to handle these guys as much as possible. So, all right, stick around. I'll be right back. I actually did have other Megos that I lost or that were ruined from playing with. Okay, and one of which was Batman, Robin, and the Batmobile. Okay, now you're gonna see my sob story about this later on. All these I replaced. Okay, these all came from eBay, from yard sales, from flea markets, different places like that. But the story behind Batman and Robin is they were a birthday gift along with the Batmobile for my favorite birthday ever. One year, my birthday was on Friday the 13th, and everyone felt so bad for me that I made out like crazy that year. I got Batman, I got Robin, I got the Evel Knievel stunt cycle, and I think I got the Smash Up Derby too, all in the same year. I mean, people, like all kinds of people I didn't even know that were like relatives and stuff, distant relatives, just came over and just dumped presents on my lap. It was fantastic. And I distinctly remember getting Batman and Robin in the Batmobile, and my neighbor had this driveway with a little bit of it was sort of like a shared driveway, but there was like a 5 or 6 inch drop between, so it was like a big tall curb. And I remember, like, everybody from the party, we just put Batman and Robin in the Batmobile, and it just jumped that beautifully. And it didn't get ruined that day, but I think eventually probably, because I played with these things like crazy. And years later, I was able to replace them. Batman, I know my brother had the one with the removable cowl, but I never did. Mine was much later. And Robin, and he still has the shoes, which is cool. The weird thing about Robin and Batman is these giant silver joints, these pins in the joints. And like I said, you're gonna see close-ups of all this stuff later, so stay tuned. And that's sort of like, I don't know, it's sort of like destroyed the illusion, you know what I mean, when you were playing with these things. Like, why did they have that? And they did come with gloves, which covered them up, which they were just like these little vinyl things, which one of the replacements didn't have. He did have the original symbol, though, in the belts, but that was always weird. And the gloves were just like big, giant oven mitts. Yeah, I did have these guys, and I think my neighbor friend had Aquaman too. We used to play with him in the stream, and he eventually fell apart, along with several G.I. Joes. But eventually I replaced these guys, and, you know, in different varying stages of condition. It was always weird that Robin had like these razor bumps along in his groin. I never understood that. But anyway, and there's Batman. The cape's a different color through age, but I like it because it's as close to what it would be like if it was mine from back then. I don't really care that these things aren't in mint condition, because I know that they were played with just like I played with mine. I'm just happy to have them back in with their friends. Yep, so these are the replacement ones. Okay, then we're gonna also look at some that I was told no. So stay tuned. Just a quick note, I'm not including in this section the pocket-sized heroes, okay, because those have similar stories as the 8-inch Mego action figures. Okay, we'll get to them, don't worry. Okay, now I distinctly remember being told no about Captain America because I wanted him when I got the Falcon, because they were teammates in the comics. Okay, I really wanted him, but I remember being told no. Now some of these pieces have replicas, parts to the costumes, but for the most part, I want to get as much vintage as possible on these guys. And like, he's still got the original Cole shield, so that's awesome. Okay, and Conan, I was told no. This is my newest acquisition, and this is all he came with. I have to get replacement: his battle axe, his sword, his boots. I gotta get the armbands, the whole 9 yards. I have to get all that stuff. I want to get him a new loincloth. I just haven't gotten around to it. And this one, his hair's a little, ugh. He's seen better days. But I really was into Conan when I was a kid. So, and I remember distinctly being told no to get it, because I think my parents said that there was too many little parts and they were afraid I would just lose them. Anyway, this was the most recent action figure I've gotten, so, in the Mego line. These two, I was told no, and I was able to eventually get them, which is the point of it all, isn't it? Yes. Revenge. This set falls into sort of an ambiguous category, okay? Always loved the Fantastic Four. I think I remember seeing The Thing as a kid. I don't remember if I was told no or what happened. I don't remember why I wasn't able to get him, because The Thing was always one of my favorite characters. Okay, and this was actually the first Mego that I got on eBay. And I got him as a present to myself, because I always wanted to reenact the Hulk versus Thing battles. And you can bet your butt that I did when I got him, when he arrived. So The Thing was always one of my favorites. I love just the way that they made him look so cool with the eyes and everything. They're not really blue. Then we come to Mr. Fantastic. He's starting to get what's known as the zombie or ghosty face, just from exposure to sunlight. This is exactly how I got him, so it's not, you know, like I stored him incorrectly or whatever. The thing about Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Girl, which I still need, is when you saw these in the store, the way the gloves are, you weren't sure. I thought that his arms would stretch out, because at the time there was Stretch Armstrong and I had Stretch Monster, and I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be cool if that's why the gloves look like this? And again, you're going to see close-ups later, but such is not the case. They're just plastic gloves, much like Iron Man's, only they're not in fists. They're just sort of like karate chop kind of. So Mr. Fantastic, he was the last one I've got of the three from the Fantastic Four. After The Thing, I think I found the Human Torch at a yard sale. I don't, it was either that or a flea market. But I got him for a good deal. And it's really neat because if you didn't know who it was, you would have no idea that those are really flames on his face. Again, he's got the full body, almost like onesies, same as Spider-Man and The Thing. And I love how they make the Rock look, the bodysuit look like Rock, like The Thing's body from the comics. Still missing the Invisible Girl. When they're on display, I tell people that she's just standing next to them using her powers. And then finally we come to the Green Goblin. Now, I'm trying to remember if I saw him in the store as a kid or not. I don't think I did. I think that there was like a kid that I knew that had him or something like that.
but I never saw him. I never saw him in the actual store. And you can see he's got the same giant silver pegs in his wrists. But yeah, I got this from online, and I think that the case is a repro, but still really cool. And I wish that he had his glider. And I know that they make them for customs. You can get one custom made, but if I couldn't buy it in the store back then, I really don't want it. You know what I mean? And that doesn't apply to reproductive pieces to make them complete, like my Conan. Sometimes you just get a figure with nothing, and you have to rely on repro pieces. And since I have no intention of selling these, and any collector would know immediately where the repro parts were, it doesn't really apply to my collection, because these are just for my own enjoyment. Okay, so that does it for these dudes, and I really want to get the Invisible Girl, and I really want to get Thor too. So okay, coming up next is another category. Okay, now we're going to look at the ones that were just too good to pass up. Okay, these were the ones that I found that the deals were just the prices were just too insanely low to say no to. And first we're going to go with Captain America, the 12-inch, which I'll admit, when I was a kid, I never saw in the store. Saw this at a flea market, great price, had to get it, but he's incomplete, obviously. You'd be surprised how hard it is to find shields for this guy. I've gone on a lot of sites that handle, that make reproduction parts. I can't find the shield. So if you know how to do it, please let me know in the comments. I really appreciate it. But I could not pass up Captain America, and he was always one of my favorite comic book characters too. He's got a little rubbing on the end of his nose where the blue's coming out, so that's kind of. I could clean him up and everything even more and restore him, but I'm gonna wait until I get more. If I can find a shield and get a star and get all the other stuff to make him nice and pretty. Superman, couldn't pass up. Repro, S on the chest. That's okay with me. I don't think I had this as a kid. No, I think somebody in the neighborhood must have, but because I'm a Marvel guy, so I never really desired them. And the only reason I got Batman and Robin was because, well, the TV show was really cool, so everybody liked them, whether you were DC or Marvel at the time. Same goes for the Penguin. Just found him. Couldn't pass him up because he was dirt cheap. He's showing signs of age, but what the heck. And then we're gonna come to Star Trek. Now, the only one that I really ever wanted was Spock. And the only reason I ever wanted to get a Megos Spock was because of the Big Bang Theory episode where he basically tortures Sheldon. And so I always wanted to get a Spock. I was always saying, if I can find a cheap one, yeah, I'll pick it up, whatever. And I just never did. One day I'm going to the flea market and I see the whole grouping of pretty much all the officers from Star Trek and the Klingon. And some of them still have their phasers, some of them have their communicators. Spock's got his little thing there. Some of the hair has been messed up. This is, believe it or not, this can get burned like that from exposure to sun, because I remember having the same thing happen on vacation when one of the figures was in the back of the car, and the sun, it basically burns it. And whoever owned these way back when must have left them out. I can always get replacement uniforms if I want to. The Klingon's in pretty good shape. But the reason I got these guys is because I saw them at a flea market and the dude was packing up. It was like the weather was getting terrible. And I just went, how much for these guys? And he was like, oh. And I forget, I'm not going to say how much, but it was like dirt cheap, like what I would pay for one. And I got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 of them. I got a whole bunch of Star Trek dudes. How could I say no? That's in my collection now too, and I really dig them. I'm not going to get the Enterprise or anything like that, I don't think. But if I want to get a complete Mego collection, I got to get the Star Trek crew. So, and you know what? I do love the original Star Trek. I do. It's just that at the time I was growing up, again, I don't remember seeing these in the store. Anyway, Star Wars was more my time period. It was like a Star Wars thing. You didn't really care about Star Trek. These are the ones that sort of just fell into my lap from the Mego collection. Okay, still got something else to show you, so stick around, and please don't forget that at the end of this I'm going to show some close-ups and you'll get some more insights into the collection. Okay, hang on. Okay folks, go get your box of tissues because there's a sad story coming up. Are you ready? Okay. Now, these are the pocket size heroes, the smaller versions that Mego put out. And when I was a kid, for Christmas one year, we were allowed to open our stockings. They were on the steps leading up to the bedroom. My bedroom was on the second floor, and I could reach through the rungs of the steps and into my Christmas stocking. I remember distinctly this one Christmas, I reached in and I got Batman, pocket size, and Robin, okay? Now the problem was, none of these are mine from when I was a kid, but the Batman that I got was the one with the bent knees, which I do not have. But he was matched with Robin, and they came with the stand, and they each came with a little hole in their fist because there was a coiled bat rope that came with it too, and the end of the bat rope you could actually stick in that hole in their fist, and it wouldn't unwind or anything. It was basically just a circle of plastic, and of course those things get lost over the years. But anyway, at one time I had them, and I'll never forget when I was that age, which is very young, the feel of the rubber cape on Batman. Okay, now here's why you need your tissues. Now, the reason I was allowed to get my Batman out of the stocking, and there was some candy and stuff in there too, but the reason I was able to pick these toys out and go to the stocking the night before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, was because that was the year that I discovered that it was actually my parents putting presents under the trees and not somebody else. And I was devastated. So I was very, very young. And as a consolation prize, I was allowed to get my stocking present, and in the stocking was Batman and Robin. So I know, it's very sad, isn't it? That was the end of a phase of childhood that I shall never be able to reclaim, no matter how hard I try, by buying this stuff. But anyway, so when it came time to finding these things, the first ones I wanted was Batman and Robin, but I wasn't able to get the bended knee one. But I'm telling you one thing, even no matter how many years go by, the minute I touched that rubber cape, I was that kid again. And I know you guys know that feeling. So that was so cool. Unfortunately, most of the times when you can get these things, they don't have the base. Luckily, my Captain America did. He came with the base and with the shield, but it's damaged. Now this one, never saw as a kid. Saw in the comic books advertised maybe, never saw in the store. Didn't know it existed until I found this sucker online. Love Captain America. I have a bunch of different Captain America size figures. I have a bunch of different size Captain America figures, as you know, not just Mego, but other manufacturers. So when I saw this with the base that his feet slide into, and the shield, even though the shield is damaged on the outside, it still has the hand loop, and it still goes on him, Had to get him. Love Captain America, even though the paint's rubbed off. I'm not gonna mess with him. If I ever find a replacement shield, that's one thing. Okay, here we go with the Green Goblin. Gotta get the little bits and pieces that go with it. Don't have it. Got him for a decent price, and he's in great shape otherwise, okay? Same thing with the Hulk. That's my bud. I have lots and lots of Hulks now. And again, you know what's neat about these guys? They all have their left hand like this, and the right hand's a fist. So I don't know if you've noticed that. And these things were awesome. I used to take my Batman and Robin to school with me. When they called these things pocket heroes and pocket pals and stuff, they meant it, because I took these things with me everywhere. If you knew you were going on a boring car trip, bang, I distinctly remember having Batman and Robin have adventures in the car for car rides, like long ones, going to visit relatives or whatever. And then finally we got Spider-Man. Very cool. You know what? I'm not sure. I don't think that the spider on his chest was ever painted, which didn't make sense because the one on his back is, and his eyes are. Everything else is fine, and just the color doesn't really match on the boots. But again, this is a straight leg. The ones with the bent knees, not on this table so much, but when it came time to put them in those little bases, really worked well. And I don't have any of the play sets or the cars or the vehicles or anything, but I would really love to, especially for the 8-inchers. I'd love to get the Spider-Man one and the Captain America one. And I remember somebody in my school had the Hulk one with the foam rubber, the teeth that would eat stuff. Oh, that was amazing. Or was it the Green Goblin? I don't know. Anyway, I remember some rich kid in my school had one of them. I just remember the teeth. It was awesome. So, but you know what? That booklet that I showed you, that book, and there's other books on the market, and of course there's websites out the wazoo. You can go and you can find all the information about Mego you want. But just don't forget that there are people that make custom Megos that were never released by the company. Okay? Those are fans and stuff. I remember when they came out, seeing them in comic book stores when they first came out, because I was like, wait, is this a real I don't remember this as a kid. And the guy said, no, this is these new custom things. People were a big fan of them. They're good sellers and stuff like that, but I think that I want to concentrate on the vintage ones first before I delve into that, because I don't have the room for it. I also need your help, because I really need to find the best way to store the figures. Right now they're in a curio cabinet, but I want to get the individual cases for them. I'm just not sure which ones are the best, you know what I mean? So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please leave it in the comments. I really, really would appreciate it. Okay, and finally, these are really loosely jointed. But Mego also made other items. Now, I also have Micronauts, okay? They were Mego. And I'm not going to use them or put them in this video. They're going to be in another one for a different, you'll see why. But anyway, I did want to include Buck Rogers and Tweaky, because these had so many different joints in them. At the time, it was really amazing. Okay, and again, you're going to see close-ups of these later. But I didn't have these as a kid, but one of the neighborhood kids did. And I remember we used to watch this show, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, all the time. Especially Colonel Deering. But anyway, she'd drive you kicking and screaming into puberty. I always liked Tweaky because of Mel Blanc. I mean, who doesn't love Mel Blanc? Big Mel Blanc fan. But Tweaky, when he came out, everybody was like, oh God, he's sort of like a cross between two other droids, shall we say. But the show was cool. It had a lot of good characters, a lot of action and stuff like that. Of course, it was cashing in on the Star Wars craze at the time. And I didn't have these, but my friend did. He had a bunch of them. I know he had like Tiger Man and a couple others. And what we would do is have these guys as background characters in with the Star Wars figures. So like he had the Death Star, so we would have like, I had a bunch of figures like stormtroopers and stuff. So we would stage different things, and then in the background would be like, because it's still a space theme, these would be like other prisoners or whatever on the Death Star. So that's why I bought these when I had the chance. I don't know if we'll ever get the rest of the Buck Rogers collection. It's not something huge on my list, but these two, of course, have a special place in my heart. And the Tweakias were really awesome. I mean, the detail on these things, considering their size, is phenomenal. And it's amazing that they survived, even though they're fragile. These guys are sitting on my mantelpiece. Okay, everybody, well, that's it for my Mego collection for now. I'll also be putting up videos of other vintage toys that I have from my childhood and other ones that I've replaced because, you know, I was told no, or that I lost throughout the years and stuff, which is pretty much the story of a lot of toy collectors out there. You know what? Tell me about your collection in the comments too, because that's what this is all about. I'm sure you guys have a lot of cool stuff. My collection is by no means a good one, but each piece has either a memory, because I grew up with it literally for all these years I've actually had these things, or there's sort of like a personal victory because I finally was able to get them. And I'm sure you other collectors know what I mean. All right, folks, so we'll see you again next time.